Hello, everybody, and welcome to Behind the Camera with AndyGames. This is the podcast where I interview streamers and content creators with the sole purpose of getting to know the person a little bit better behind the camera. However, today is a little bit different as I will not be interviewing anybody today, but instead, I am going to be the one being interviewed by none other than my wife, Mrs. Games.
Evening.
Hi, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Like, sorry.
Good, good. It feels weird asking you that. Like, I literally, like,
You've
seen
been
it.
with me all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think for the purpose of this, it seemed to work.
Mm.
But yes, so my wife has gladly agreed to do this. This strangely was on very sort of popular demand. A lot of people had approached me and said, "Can somebody interview you? Mainly, can it be Claire?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. We'll do that at the end of the year." I was going to do episode 10 actually, but
Yeah, that's right.
it kind of just I got more and more people on board, and then it's got to the point where I was just like, okay, we'll do it for the year end special, we'll call it, even though it's just another episode. It's just the shoes on the other foot this time. Um, but yeah, I am excited. So Claire has prepared questions for me in advance, which I've very briefly looked at, but yeah, we will just get right into it. So Claire, the floor is yours.
Alrighty. So, and AndyGames _94.
Yes. You
Right.
can tell how this is going to go so far.
It's going to go fantastic. So, I'm going to hit you with a two-parter question to start with.
Okay.
So first off, how did you get into gaming? And then following on from that, what inspired you to start streaming?
Okay. So I have, for as long as I can remember, been playing video games. I remember when I was maybe 3 or 4 years old. This is probably one of my like earliest memories. Getting the Nintendo 64
Mm-hmm.
with Mario 64, and I think GoldenEye was involved in that. Um, for Christmas one year between me and my two older brothers, and I remember like the first game I ever played, Mario 64, and that like always stuck with me. I was just like, it took me a very long time to complete it, but I was always playing that, and then obviously the older I got, the more games we got because we shared the console with each other. We sort of started getting like loads of games. Mario 64 was always the main one. It was always the my favorite. And then like there was obviously other ones as well. So one that I was really interested in was WWF Raw is War, or War no WWF Warzone is what it's called.
What a game. Yeah.
It was, and like I used to absolutely rinse that. We did have like a fairly decent collection. Like I think it was maybe about like 15 games or something that we had on the N64 for like the time that we like had it. And so there was that. I was a big fan of International Superstar Soccer, which is one of the most fucking jank football games you'll ever play.
Is it like original Football Manager?
No. It's like you're playing as like international teams.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. But it's like really just bad, to be quite honest with you. It's not the worst, but by no means is it like a good game. Like I mean, I think for the time for being a football game, probably okay. Um, and then we had like Super Smash Brothers, we had Banjo Kazooie. So like I was always like a sort of big Nintendo player. And then my two older brothers, like they, well, we I think one year we got a PS2 between us,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe like 5 or 6 years later or something like that. And then I got into PlayStation gaming, but only kind of minimally because even though it was like shared between us, it was always a case where, you know, the older sibling always gets the sort of, they get the pick of it really. So, I
Absolutely.
kind of played it a little bit, but I still really liked it. So it was loads of games like GTA, obviously being the main one that people always played on PlayStation. But then through that, I got like more time to play the N64. So, like, I just sort of played so many games, and I mean, not very good, but I enjoyed it, which is like the most important thing. Um, so like I was always kind of on and off for so many years, and then come COVID, so coming 5 years ago now, I still lived at home, and like the times when you just sat in the house with absolutely nothing to do.
Yeah.
Like I just picked up the N64 again and just started playing like through all my different games, and then this kind of like led in its own way like neatly onto the sort of like next part. But I picked up Mario 64 for the first time in probably quite a while, and I decided, okay, this is over a weekend. I decided I think it would be kind of cool to see if I can complete this game, 120 stars, and collect every single coin in the entire game.
I remember you texted me about this, being
Yeah.
like so excited that you were going to try it.
Yeah. And it took me a total of about 13 hours, maybe over 2 days. Um, and look how far I've come. But like, so during COVID as well, like I kind of sidetracked a little bit there, but like during COVID, I started collecting more games. It's one of the things I was still working away, but like I never had like the responsibility of like, you know, bills until like, later in life. And I started collecting games. Like everything was going quite cheap on eBay. People sort of must have just got to the point where they were either going to get into sort of like this type of space, or they were going to be like, well, I'll just kind of sell some things here.
Mm.
So like so many things were going very, very cheap. Like I bought an expansion pack so I could buy games that I wouldn't really have a chance to have played when I was younger. And I took that opportunity as well. Like so I bought Majora's Mask. So I was a massive fan of. I actually controversially, potentially, I prefer that to Ocarina of Time. Which is like so they were like the two big Zelda Nintendo games,
Yeah.
Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. I prefer Majora's Mask. I don't know why.
Again, I remember you getting that. I think I had COVID that week. So I was home. I remember you
Um,
just blasting through that game.
no, that would have been before. It was like 2 years
Okay.
before you had COVID.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. But yeah. So yeah, there was that, and I bought Perfect Dark, DK64, all the expansion pack games, and just yeah, I started collecting. Then I bought a GameCube. I collected a load of games for that, and then sometime later, the PS2 came. Thanks to yourself, for my 28th birthday. I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
It's when we went to America, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So the PS2. So it was like kind of like as I got older, I was able to kind of like go back and just start to play all of the old games that I used to. But I've always been a massive gamer. Like even as a kid, even though I was so active and fit and healthy as a kid, I was still playing video games all the time. It's always just kind of been like a big, big part of me. Now, in terms of like what inspired me to start streaming, um, so like Twitch streaming was something that like I've always kind of had somewhat of like a knowledge about, but never really seen it. I'd never crossed my mind. And for me personally, I was I was always that person who, now when I was like say 16, 17, that was like kind of when people would have started posting like they would have had like a cheap capture card or something, and they
Mm.
would have played Call of Duty like
Yeah.
zombies or something and posted all their videos up onto YouTube or something.
Or like Halo and things, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Just like the first person shooter games and stuff like, and they would have posted that up, and I got to the point because I was never into like those types of games, but I was always that type of person. I was like, well, why would you just not play a video game for yourself? Why wouldn't you watch somebody else do it? This, that, and the other, yada, yada, yada. So that was me when I was younger. And then it was January 2023.
Mm.
I just stumbled into this world. I was scrolling through TikTok, and I come across a streamer who was running Mario 64. Now, this is a time that I'd recently got back into playing Mario 64, and I was like, oh, there's someone playing one of my favorite games of all time. Amazing. So I stop in, and I see speedrunning. And I'm like, okay, this is something I've never ever seen before in my entire life. I'll sit and watch this. But in terms of social media, now this is something that I never really understood about streaming. Not everybody is as vocal or engaging with their chat,
Yeah.
and it's a speedrunner thing as much as it is like a normal streamer thing. But now I couldn't tell you what this guy's viewership was at, but I, tried to kind of engage him, conversation, but he didn't once look at the screen, and like the mods were doing all the talking, and it was very blunt, and I was just like, okay, I don't really want to be here. I'm not a fan of this
Mm-hmm.
community. No harm to him, of course, but like it's when you get people kind of answering on someone's behalf, but in like a what seems like a really snappy kind of way.
Yeah.
I was just like, no, not into this. And then it must have been really early February last year that I am scrolling through, and now that the algorithm has kind of gotten a taste of what it was that I was kind of into watching,
Yeah.
I come across Logan, and I see him. This is like, and this was in the early days of even him streaming what he does now, and I started watching and I started engaging, and he was like very, very nice back to
Mm.
me, and it was just like, okay, this is cool. This is the sort of place that I want to be. This is the sort of streamer that I want to be around. And obviously because I had like a already existing interest in this game, it was kind of nice, and I kind of was just like, do you know what? I think I might start kind of giving this a go. Like, it was never about streaming, but I was though just learning like the speedrunning tricks and stuff. And and he was also as well in his Discord as well. He's very, very engaging, and he'll always kind of do anything he can to like help people out and stuff like that,
Yeah.
which is incredible. And like, in terms of me getting my start, like I owe a lot of it to him and the help that he gave me, and like how supportive he was, because there's sometimes like the um concern that streamers have when people come into their streams and they're all very friendly. They kind of, embed themselves into a community, but then they all of a sudden start streaming, and then you never see them again,
Mm.
because you can't help but think that there's like this ulterior motive that people sometimes have, where it's like, okay, well, I want to get into streaming. Here's somebody who's well established. Let me kind of, get into them, make some friends, and then I'll bring them over with me as
Yeah.
an existing fan base. It never works.
No.
It never works. I've seen people do that before, and it just, you see them streaming to like one person, because it's just like, well, you obviously have just, you know, not to say that everybody has that kind of mindset, but sometimes it just looks that way, and it never really works out for people. But if they enjoy what they do, then totally fair. Um, so yeah, so I started learning these like speedrun tricks, and I was kind of like, I really enjoy this. This is like really kind of, this is nice. This is like fun. I was around like a lot of really, really good people. Started to sort of like make some, like, you could call them friendships and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I goes, right, you know what? I'm gonna like I'm gonna invest something into this, because it's something that I've always liked to entertain people. You know, well, whether you could call what I do entertaining or not, but if
I
people,
think everybody would agree that you do.
well, thank you, that's very kind of me. But I've always been a fan of entertaining people, not like being the center of attention or a star of the show or anything like that, but just being funny, making people laugh, because I think it's important to like do that for people. I feel like the absolute like power that there is behind like somebody laughing at something,
Yeah.
it can be, something that can like either it can make somebody's day, week, or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is an incredibly important thing. So I've always liked to do that. So then I got to the point I was like, okay, I'll put some money into this. So I bought a cheap £130 refurb laptop. Not even a gaming laptop. It was like an i3 processor, which for those who don't know it's your basic sort of everyday use laptop, but you would never play any games on it. You probably could, actually, to be fair. Um And my good friend Ryan, the mighty Ryan, as a lot of you will know, he gave me his old capture card, which
Hmm.
he had passed on to him. Um, and that was pretty much me ready to go. So I had the means. I downloaded all the software. I had the capture card. I had the console, and I was like, okay, let's give this a go. And it was the sort of thing where it was like, if this doesn't work, then at the very least, I have a new laptop
Yeah.
that I can just use for everyday use. And and like I got really into it, and like I was sort of very fortunate enough to the point where like I had made friends with people from similar time zone,
Yeah.
and they were very keen to see me start doing this.
Hmm.
And they were incredibly supportive from day one, and they're still here, and they're incredible people. Like everybody who's there,
100%.
they know who they are. And they so I was like sort of like I've spoke to a lot of people in this series, and one of the sort of common themes I had with people was the whole streaming to one or two people kind of thing. I'm kind of fortunate enough that I never had that,
No.
just because of the support from the people who sort of like started watching me right from the very beginning. So like, people say one or two. For me, it was always like right from the very start, it was always like six or seven people,
Yeah.
which for starting out is it's huge.
It's
To be
unreal.
honest with you, it's absolutely huge because and I'm really grateful for that. Every time I get behind the computer, like I'm incredibly grateful for that because it's like people are making that choice to do that. You know what I mean? And it's like I don't have to do that. So it's yeah, no, it's incredible. So that sort of like got me starting out in streaming, and it's one of those things. It was kind of like right. It sort of got to the point. I was like, what do I want to do with this?
Mm.
So I just sort of was like, okay, well, I've kind of started doing it because I wanted to do Mario 64 speedrunning, and then I sort of got into that, and I kind of, you know, in some aspects, like that was my start, but then I kind of eventually learned that that wasn't really the be all end all of streaming. But yeah, like I mean, I know that's an incredibly long winded answer, but that is pretty much a sort of definitive history of like my gaming journey to like where I am today,
But it's
or how
nice.
I started, I suppose.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to see that progression of like how you initially kind of started watching it, and then because I remember the conversations me and you had
Yeah.
where you were like, "Oh, this is really class." Andy had explained to me what Discord and Twitch was about 30 trillion times because I kept getting them mixed up, and I'd always hear this Australian guy, and I was just like, "Who's that?" And then after maybe about the 10th time of you telling me, I was like, "Oh, you're watching Logan," and you're like, "Yep, watching Logan."
Yeah.
And then even like going from your software, like you used to stream in our kitchen on your old laptop
Yes,
to
that's
now
right.
in our spare room where, you have a full setup.
Yeah.
It's amazing to see just how far you've came.
Thank you.
Uh,
Yeah, like they're definitely like, and I think in terms of things behind that, it was like I started off on now. If for anybody who ever watched one of my streams from a year ago, would be about a year ago. Um, the way it was like described it was like watching a PowerPoint presentation. It was so fucking slow. Oh my god, it was terrible. So it was a certain thing. I could only stream on Twitch, and I could only really stream anything on console. I couldn't stream anything on like emulator. Nothing at all. I could play these games on emulator. Like it ran okay to play these games like normally,
mm,
but nope. If I wanted to stream them, it had to be on console solely because it was just using up less CPU. Um, but yeah, like that, like as Claire says, it's like 100%. Like I started out just streaming in my kitchen, um, just the most basic setup on like a terrible laptop, one screen,
mm-hmm.
to being able to buy a full blown gaming PC, proper setup and all, and like yeah, it's there has been like a lot of development with it, and it's just sort of like it's so weird to kind of look back on like the last 12 months particularly to see like the difference in terms of like then and now.
Yeah. No, it is like it's really, really phenomenal. But I think it's testament to who you are. Like not,
Oh,
to kind of be that person, but genuinely,
playing the wife card here, aren't you?
I'll take the money later. Like, but no, but I think the fact that you constantly had the viewership and people sticking around
Mm-hmm.
is testament to people want to watch you. They don't really have to watch you.
Yeah.
So it's just you being engaging.
I I
Very
think
proud.
it's important for me personally because this is something that I've learned over the time I've been streaming, and I think streaming itself is like a constant learning thing. And I do say this a lot, but it's the sort of thing where it depends on what you want to get out of it, what sort of streamer you want to be. So you have like a lot of streamers who just they don't read chat. Now they're either really big streamers to the point where they don't read chat because one, they don't have to, or two, they just physically can't.
It's going that quick.
Yeah. Or you have like speedrunners who are probably streaming to maybe a dozen people, but they're just so like, locked in, as they say, into this game, and they just choose to ignore it because they're concentrating.
Mm.
That to me is kind of boring.
Oh,
I find
100%.
that boring as fuck, to be honest with you. Like, um, I get people are into it because they've maybe stuck around with these streamers for a long time. They kind of, are invested, or they're just really big fans of whatever game that it is. But for me personally, I like to sort of I just like to sort of be engaging with people because people are like taking their time to watch me by
Mm.
choice, like as we said. And it's like, well, not that it's not like about giving back, but it's just the kind of case where it's like, you know, I I want to make it worthwhile for them, because I think
Yeah.
that's like the most important thing. Because that's what I want to get out of a stream when I'm
Yeah.
watching
Of
somebody. So
course.
it's the kind of thing. It's like something that like somebody said to me one time was, in terms of like streaming and content, you know, put out what you would want to watch yourself,
Yeah. 100%.
and that kind of for me goes as far as to like, you know, be the streamer you want to be, and like if you're watching somebody, kind
Mm-hmm.
of, yeah, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
what I mean
No.
by that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of leads us on to the next question then. So you are great at diversifying your stream.
Okay.
Did you ever have any worries about not solely streaming Super Mario 64? Like, especially you started off with base game,
Uh-huh.
speedrunning it, and then you decided you hated it, and then switching up. Like, how did that feel?
Um, where do I begin with this? Holy fuck. So there is a thing with just streamers in general who who get like typecast into doing the one thing. They have like their little niche, and the it's very much like a concern thing where it's like, okay, this is where I get this game, this one particular game is my bread and butter,
Yeah.
and it goes a lot deeper than how many people are just chatting, and it shows because, like, say for example, say you see somebody who has like 40 viewers
Mm-hmm.
in their stream, right? And less than half of those people are chatting.
Yeah.
Um, but then the next day they do something different and they have less than half of the people in their stream, kind of thing. So there's always that kind of concern that some streamers have where it's like, if I change up what I'm doing, is it going to affect? Because the thing is, you don't know who's lurking, you don't know who's just there to watch a game because they like to watch the game
Yeah.
for like all their different reasons and stuff. And that was the sort of case for me as well, because I like I said before, I had like a really, really like good start in terms of streaming. I got very, very lucky in terms of that. But I wanted to kind of implement variety early on, and it didn't necessarily work out the way that I kind of intended on. So what I planned on doing was every Friday was going to be a variety day where I'd play like different N64 titles and just kind of, you know. But I got so invested into speedrun because I was so new into speedrun on Mario 64. It was very much a case of like, I I'm getting like so much better at this game because you're so new. You're on a fucking PB all the time, and I got sort of sucked into that.
Yeah.
And then I like plateaued very early, and I'm still fucking garbage at the game. Like, but like I don't care. So it's the sort of thing. It's like I was in like a little bit of a point when I decided that I wanted to do something different. It was like I didn't want to deviate like too far away from what I was doing because it's the sort of thing where the way that like my mind was working with that was like, okay, if people want to see Mario, I can give people Mario, but I'll do it in a different like I'll do something different.
Yeah.
I'll find like, you know, ROM hacks because I knew about ROM hacks. The first Mario ROM hack I ever played was when I was 15 years old. I played it on my laptop at the time with literally um the keypad, the keyboard.
Yeah.
I played a game Mario game with the keyboard. Um I was just sort of that's what I wanted to do. I didn't really want to do anything else because I couldn't play any like PC games. So for the shortest time, I was in this sort of place where I was like throwing shit at a wall and seeing what stuck. You know, like that's like kind of where I was
Mm.
because it wasn't something I wanted to give up on because it was something I thought was going well, but like it was affecting my head
Yeah.
because you know I started to get like imposter syndrome, like thinking, you know, this is too good to be true. Like people are going to get fucking sick of me very, very quickly. And it's because as well, there is like a sort of habit of things like that happening. So when people start streaming, um, who are like established members in a established streamers community,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, there sometimes can be this like flavor of the month type sort of thing that comes with it.
Okay.
They will start streaming. They will do fucking incredible for the first couple of months,
Mm-hmm.
but then there'll be like a little bit of a drop off almost. Now, again, I can't really sort of speak for anybody else's opinion
Yeah.
on that, but it's the sort of thing. It's kind of like it's how it appears to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I was afraid that I had kind of fallen into that sort of niche as well, thinking, you know, because like people started watching me and like 90% of the people who started watching me at the time were people from Logan's community. So I was kind of thinking, okay, are people now just like over it?
Yeah.
That sort of thing. You know, are people just over it? This, that, and the other. Um, Thankfully not, but there is a sort of things like every time I did something different. Now this was more like the start of this year when I was able to play PC games and stuff. You know, playing something different, it massively affected the viewership.
Mm.
Massively affected the viewership.
Yeah.
And I try not to look at the viewership
No.
for those reasons, but I think whenever you're doing something different, sometimes it's kind of like worthwhile checking it, in my opinion, because then you're like, okay, well, this game obviously doesn't do shit for people. Not to say that you have to pander to your audience, but at the same time, you need to be, you need to still try and retain your audience
Yeah.
as
Be
much as,
engaging in your own way.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. As much as you know, doing different things brings in different people. There, it's a very kind of it's a strange thing. It's incredibly like hard to explain. I personally can't explain it to be honest. I'm still learning every single day. Um, but yeah, like it was a sort of thing, and even like so, even like around when was it? Around September time, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was around September time. I was competing in a tournament,
Yeah.
and it was a Mario 64 tournament. It's a Freeman's Shotgun tournament, and you know, it was grand. It was grand. I had like fun doing that. But then it got to the very last one, very last race, and like I think something had happened that day, or I was just having a really bad day,
Mm.
and it wasn't going well. The race, it was I didn't care, but I just goes, I was like, you know what? I'm not enjoying this anymore. Like I'm not enjoying this. This doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah.
So then I kind of like this was around the time that I like completely rebranded everything. And I'm still kind of figuring that out, but I kind of feel like I have it like down at this point. So I'm a few months on, but like but it was at that point I didn't really have the reservations about like doing something different. I was just like, I'm just gonna fucking do it.
Mm.
I am just gonna do it at this point. I do not care because I want to do something that makes it feel for me that this is still worthwhile doing because I enjoy it. Like I was able to put everything aside, but like
The weight that took off you though, because I remember like for that week, I think it was just we came back from honeymoon and you were exhausted,
yeah.
and then kind of having that there and not enjoying it.
Mhm.
But then once you decided, right, I'm going to take a step back from speedrunning and I'm going to do something different. Not necessarily forever. You still might go back to speedrunning.
Well, I pretty much have like in a more
Yeah,
full
no,
time
of course,
capacity now, but
but
it
but
didn't
it
last
just
long.
but it just lifted you. You could tell that like even just taking that step back for you
Yeah.
was the best thing. And I
Oh, for
think
sure.
you're like, I'm sure everybody will agree with me that we could see it from the other side of the camera, like watching you. You
Yeah.
could see you enjoying it again.
Oh, absolutely. Like, and even though it did turn into like maybe about a month, 2 months or something of
Mm,
like minimal kind of, I every time I do a speedrun, I fucking love it. Oh my god, I fucking love it. Like it can
yeah.
be frustrating still, but like I like it enough to want to keep doing it because it's fun. And it's the sort of thing I feel like it's always going to be a part of like my streamer identity
Mm-hmm.
because it's how I started and it's something I enjoy and I feel like I can bring something a little bit different to it
Yeah.
than just being another speedrunner. Which no disrespect to people who do just speedrun one game because you can be very successful in doing that
Oh,
very, very
100%.
easily, and people are.
Especially if it's something they enjoy.
Yeah,
They don't get burnout.
absolutely. I just like to be different. Oh no,
Mm.
I just like to be different. I just like to be different, difficult, really. That's what I do. Always have to go against the grain.
Worth it though.
Yeah, like so that's the thing, and it's like sort of I did have my reservations at first, but like whenever I kind of like got to like the last few months, the tail end of the year,
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of was like, I'm just gonna go with it. I'm gonna do what I want to do,
Yeah.
and people will be there, or people might not be there, and you know, it's yeah, it's just one of those things.
Yeah. No, well, I think you handled it very well. And
Thank
like
you.
it's nice to see that we spark back in your eye.
I appreciate that.
So on to the next question then.
Yep.
What do you envision for this coming year of streaming?
So I have been thinking a lot, even before I saw you send me this question.
Uh-huh.
I've been thinking about this for quite a lot. So like, um, so this is like the end of my first full year of streaming. So I started 18 months ago nearly.
Yeah.
So it's been the end of my first full year, and I feel like a lot's happened, but streaming has kind of come secondary to a lot of it. But
Mm.
I feel like now I'm at the point where I've kind of like there's a lot of things I've kind of established myself fairly well in at this point. And I've kind of now obviously like a few months back where we were just talking about there where I kind of rebranded everything, kind of, redid my setup and everything. And I was just kind of like, this is what I want to do. And it never really happened. It's kind of hard sometimes to like nail down a schedule.
Yeah.
Um, but what I've kind of decided for this coming year is I want to I want to stream more. So I
Mm-hmm.
want to maybe stream 4 times a week. They don't necessarily have to be long, but they might not necessarily be short, just for however long I kind of feel like,
Yeah.
but obviously with a sort of quite a tight schedule. Um, I want to focus a lot on speedrunning, but different games. So I have like a list of different games that I want to start speedrunning.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I've been more recently been exposed to a lot more speedruns of different games, and I love it.
Yeah. Is this through T's tournament?
So yeah, so that's one of them through Sir T's new run tournament, through Luigi Dini's DKR tournament, so the
Yeah.
Diddy Kong Racing tournament. Like I came second in that, which was incredible for me. And I enjoyed playing that game so much. And that was a game that I was like, I never owned it as a kid. I didn't own it until I was like in my mid 20s.
Mm.
And so based on that tournament alone, I wanted to just start running it because it was like I'm enjoying doing this.
Yeah.
It's
Again,
yeah.
you could tell.
Yeah. And like the fact that I even went out and bought the Japanese copy of it for that. So like there's way more. So there's like Diddy Kong Racing, there's Lilac Wars / Star Fox 64,
Mm.
GoldenEye, Super Smash Brothers potentially,
Oh, nice.
and then keep up with Mario as well. So there's like so many different things. Like then I'm going to start speed on it. And then obviously when we were in Japan, you got me the SNES.
Yeah.
So there's so much more I can do on the SNES. Like it's the sort of thing I have like a bit more of a clear head of the things that I want to do. It's just a matter of kind of placing everything into um into the sort of schedule.
Yeah, of course.
And I want to do more story based games. I want to take maybe 2 days a week to do a story based game. Like
I love
just
RPGs.
because you haven't, yeah, I know, yeah, you've been big into your Pokemon lately.
Love
Like you've been massively
RPGs.
big into your Pokemon lately. Like I could never get into the new ones though.
No.
No.
Ah.
I just for me it was like it just ended at 151.
Oh no, 100%. Like for me, sorry to kind of like
No,
go
no, no,
back
no,
to
no.
Pokemon, but like
That's what we say.
for me, the original 151, yes,
Yeah.
nothing's going to beat that. But at the same time, it's still the nostalgia of like running around trying to catch Pokemon and like, honestly,
No, oh yeah, for sure. So like, in terms of that, like the concept stays the same, but like
yeah.
I don't know, I feel like there's just too much to sort of
Well,
I feel like the original Gen 1 was like the most simplistic thing. And it was like, yeah.
you can still get like that new one you got me for Christmas. Can never pronounce the name of it.
I think I don't really want to like
Yeah,
I say Arceus, but I don't know if that's how you pronounce it.
it probably is. I just can't say it.
Okay.
Pikachu's in it. You know, like a
I
lot
know,
of
but like
their.
all of the Gen 1 Pokemons are in
Yeah,
it.
I know.
Pokemons.
I know, but like a lot of like the originals
Yeah.
are in it. Like I think Bulbasaur and Squirtle and
Oh,
uh Topi and everything.
Togepi.
Togepi, sorry,
Yeah.
they're all in it. You just have to find them.
No, of course. Like I don't know. For me, I mean, I get that. Like obviously, expanded on a base like that, it it keeps engagement. It keeps you playing the game because there's so many. There's well over 1,000 Pokemon now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like fair play. They can make up things for new Pokemon all the time, but I don't know. RPG. I like RPGs like that. Like I want to give Super Mario RPG a go. I
Yeah.
know that Paper Mario is. I would technically argue it's a RPG, but like I story based games
Yeah.
like RPGs. I like open world ones, but story based games, just because they are like. I mean, there's so many games I played offline, like just that are story based. Like
Yeah.
one I've harped on about for a long time. The series is Jack and Daxter, and I've been
Oh my
meaning to play
gosh.
that for such a long
It's
time on
so
stream.
good.
It is. I
Yeah.
absolutely love that series, but I just haven't gotten around to doing it yet, and that's going to be like a big one for me to do because I've been so excited for it because it's story based. Now it's weird that 2 and 3 kind of do go off into a bit of a darker tangent, but it's still brilliant,
They're so
fantastic
good.
series. I just kind of think it's good to do these like different things while keeping them with like the whole theme of being retro. Um, so really, yeah, like it's a pretty much that is like kind of what I'm sort of planning for the year ahead.
Yeah.
In terms of behind the camera,
Where's your oyster?
just keep it going. Yeah, just keep it going.
Would you ever go back to that? What was this? I can't remember the name of it. It was like really like ethereal. Like it was like in like a sand dune, and you were like floating. The music was really really good.
I think that was Jack and Daxter 3.
No,
No?
no, it was like you weren't a person. You were like cloak
Journey.
journey.
So Journey's very much like a one and done kind of game.
It is, but it's so good.
But that stream, oh my god, that stream that I did Journey and then Flowers, which is another Annapurna game, I got a little bit emotional at the end of that stream because it's one of those things where you don't need words in a game.
Yeah.
You do not need dialogue, but just the imagery. It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. I got emotional, man. I got emotional just like yeah, like it was just that. It was just that good. Like it's just and like I got recommended it. I think it was my brother who recommended it to me, and I played it, and I was just like, I want to cry. This is the most life affirming thing
Yeah.
I've ever played in my life, but yeah, it was absolutely fantastic.
But it's amazing, like, games can do that for you, where it's like, as you say, something that has no dialogue, you just go on your journey.
Yeah, and like there's not really. It kind of yeah, it kind of says a lot really, like without really saying anything at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. So your next question is: not only do you stream, but you also have a successful podcast.
Some might say.
What inspired you to get into podcasting?
Truthfully, it's not really that loaded an answer I've had for you, but so it does go back a lot further than people might think. So for the people who have watched me stream for the time I've been streaming, people have known me. Um, basically, my good friend Dark Voice, who I met through streaming,
Mm-hmm.
him and I, we've always just had this like really good kind of chemistry with one another in terms of just
Yeah.
when we game together and just chatting, just people seem to really have a good time, and people really wanted to just like they wanted a lot of collabs, really kind of like that, and so did I, because I enjoyed them. We always just had a lot of fun together, bouncing off each other. And now I can't remember who it was who said this, but somebody said it, and they said, I would just watch a stream of you guys talking.
Yeah.
So then something just kind of clicked. I was like, well, Dark, would you like to start a podcast? And that we did. Now, we only did 4 episodes of that podcast, but the whole sort of the nature of that was like talking about gaming and gaming related things and streaming related things. That was about it. And then we had like a bit of a break, and we came back, did another episode, and we just kind of shot the shit for 2 hours. It was just nice just talking, and like, in a live setting, we got like sort of people watching and stuff, similar to the way I do behind the camera. And then I knew that Dark Games Entertainment wasn't really going to last the longest time, because Dark has been massively enthralled in developing his own game.
So excited
Curiosity.
for it.
I'm so excited
So
for
buzzing
Curiosity
for
to drop. To the point I'll give it like a quick plug.
Yeah, absolutely.
The point I'll give it a quick plug. Wishlist Curiosity on Steam. You will absolutely not regret it. It is going to be incredible. So yeah, so we had the podcast, and we were like, okay, we'll kind of find a time to get this back and all. And he's only just gotten busier and busier as time's gone on, so we haven't been able to. And that's just the way things go. And so I decided, it's like, well, I've got a taste for doing this. I want to continue to do this a little bit more. I'm going to go out on my own. I'm going to do my own thing. And this is the point where it goes back a lot further than people actually realize. So something I have always been sort of mindful of and curious of is the fact that every single person who you meet in life has their own story to tell. And I just always find that like incredibly fascinating. And it's like, no matter where you meet somebody from, whether you meet somebody online, whether you are on holiday or something, or you just meet somebody on the bus or something like that, just to give a random example, everybody has their own story to tell. Everybody has had their own experiences.
Yep.
And potentially some like no other. And it's always just fascinated me, because obviously there are more people who don't have this kind of like celebrity status where we know all about their lives and all that kind of stuff like that. But I've always thought, like, surely the sort of everyday average Joe probably has had more interesting things happen in their life than like any celebrity we can think of. So that's always something that I've like kind of been curious about. And so then the way I kind of like related that into my streaming and how to do this was like, well, in the sort of like communities that I'm a part of in terms of streaming, I'm like, I know so many people from streaming, and I know so many mutual people who watch different people. It's like, but do these people really know them on this particular level? So I kind of like took the whole concept about people's backstories and decided, like, well, do you know what? Why not just interview people?
Yeah.
why not just do like a talk show type thing, interview people? And so I just sort of I did it. I started off like essentially interviewing people who I know anyway, because they were the people I wanted to get to know.
Yeah.
The people who I've interviewed who I've known the most, they were the ones initially that I wanted to get to know. And since then, I've like started to branch out. Like I've started to send out like emails to people to interview different types of creators and stuff. Not just doesn't have to just be gamers, just content creators generally.
Mm.
So that's how this came about. But generally, in terms of podcasting, this is something I've wanted to do for about 10 years. And I know you don't know this. I've never told you
No.
this. Because it was always something that like never, I knew was never going to materialize. But I kind of feel like this is just sort of basically a massive part of who I was as a kid, probably to a point now. Always got something to say. And I just kind of thought, fuck it, I want to do a podcast. Don't know what I'll talk about. It's fucking anything. And obviously now, maybe I could have, maybe if I had got back into, had I got into it 8 years ago, 8 or 10 years ago, whatever it was, like, could have been an incredibly different sort of
Mm.
thing. But here we are. And like, I think I like to kind of feel like I've done this a lot more organically than like I would have done so many years ago.
Yeah.
Um, now this here, I've never told anybody this.
Oh,
And I've never ever told
dropping that tea.
anybody this. This is the sort of thing like this is something that I kind of did as like a little, not like an experiment of sorts, but just because I was bored one day.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was about maybe 17 or 18 or something like that. Like I've always been, because I've been so exposed to like media, social media, all this kind of stuff. Like one thing that I did, I like went onto Amazon and I bought like this really cheap like microphone, just like a USB sort of thing. But it was this literally, so it sat on like a little plastic plate, and
Mm-hmm.
you just attached it, and it looked like a supermarket tannoy,
Ah, okay.
but it was a microphone, like a USB microphone. And I oh my god, I actually went telling the story, like Jesus Christ, like fuck's sake. So yeah, so I what do you call it? Um decided to basically like act as though I was on, like I hosted my own radio show.
Oh, no way.
Like I took this mic and I pretended I was on this radio show, just talking about a lot of shit and then just like playing music from my iTunes onto this recording software.
That's lethal.
And I did this for like about an hour, like every so often. And I was kind of like, yeah, I kind of want to like, do something like that. I want to do something kind of like media related. That's like what I've always kind of wanted to do from like around my like late teens and stuff.
Did it feel cathartic to kind of get it all out, like whatever you were thinking in that moment, just to kind of talk?
So for me personally, like I've always been like a creative sort of
Mm,
mind.
very much so.
But the problem with that is for me, it's like somewhat of a perfectionist.
Mm,
And it's the sort of thing, if I'm doing things and it's not going anywhere, then it's kind of like, well, what's the point sometimes?
yeah, of course.
So, um, yeah, so I suppose it was kind of cool, like I was doing something, but because I knew it was like not going anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
it was one of those things that I never really like lasted. Um, but the the kicker of this story that I've just told you about the radio show, now don't ask me why, because I don't know, but I did it in an American accent.
Oh no, no, we need to hear a bit of your American radio
I
talk show accent.
I don't remember what exactly. I think it was just like a generic American accent. Like I have no idea. Like, I don't know. I don't know why, but I just did. I just was just like, I did have like a name for the radio show.
Okay, say it in an
I
American
don't
accent.
remember what it was though. I don't remember what it was. I don't remember anything about it other than the fact that I did it on I kind of on some recording software.
Okay, introduce this podcast in an American accent as if you were in a TV radio show.
But why?
This is what the people want.
Sake.
You brought it up.
All right, let me take a drink of water first. Hello and welcome to Behind the Camera with AndyGames.
Phenomenal.
That's just the most generic, like
Phenomenal.
just the most generic American accent. It's just like
Right, now do it in Chloe's accent now.
Chloe's accent. No, this is not turning into an accent podcast.
Sorry.
But yeah, like I mean, that's sort of that's like my sort of whole thing with getting into podcasting. It's been like quite a
Amazing.
long-standing thing that like
No, that's class.
I've wanted to do, but for years I didn't actually give it any thought. I didn't give it any thought because it was like I'm never going to be in a position where I'm going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I just sort of I find the right moment and something organically came up and I just kind of went with that from there.
Unreal. But honestly, so class. So how do you keep podcasting fresh? Is there a certain thing you look for in those who you want to interview?
So the main criteria is, as I sort of suggest in the intro for this, streamers and content creators.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of keeping it fresh, that's quite a difficult one because I don't actually know if I can really say that I do keep this fresh. Now, that's not to say people don't enjoy it because people tell me that they do enjoy it. People tell me that what I'm doing is like incredible for like these different communities and stuff. And that goes like a massively long way for me. But I think it's one of those things where in terms of keeping it fresh, it's like I don't think it can ever get stale because I'm interviewing like so many different people all the time. Now, one concern that I've had is falling into the trap where I seemingly exclusively interview Mario 64 speedrunners.
Yeah.
But I know like a lot of people like that, and there's a lot of people who I'm very curious to talk about. And I've spoke to loads, but that's the one thing I've been kind of concerned about being typecast as. But that being said, I've also interviewed people who don't play Mario.
Yeah.
Now, the only difference is every single interview that I've done has been gaming related, bar one when I interviewed a charity. So for me personally, I think it's one of those things where I think just know sort of like the sort of who I'm interviewing in terms of like I'll find this person and not just go into like random people's streams and be like, oh, here, would you like to appear on a podcast?
Just
like I get
anybody.
to know them on like the most basic level sort of thing, and then kind of just throw it out there and it's one of those things where you kind of just have to shoot for the stars sometimes and just literally fire out an email to somebody who someone might tell you have no right doing that because you're never gonna know what could have been if you don't ask.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've sent out emails to like so many different creators who are fairly big in what they do, and no answer, no acknowledgement, nothing. It's like, okay, cool. But I'm right back where I am, and it's just a case of like finding people who I would like to interview.
Yeah.
I think personally for me, it's not just a case of interviewing anybody or if somebody suggests somebody, just going off that and like, okay, I'll interview this person.
Yeah.
I do take suggestions for people, but that's for me to go and look at their content and just be like, okay. And at the same time, that's never ruling it out, to be honest with you. It's just like, but at the same time, it's like, it doesn't necessarily have to just be gamers as well. Like content creation is like such a wide thing where, it takes on so many different forms. For instance, I reached out to a local comedian.
I'm so excited
in Northern Ireland who started just kind of making silly TikToks over COVID, and he's doing like really well for himself. And I used to watch him in his lives on my personal TikTok account and kind of got to know him a little bit, like a nice fella, and like he started recognizing me for coming in. And I just messaged him out of the blue on behind the camera on Instagram. And it's just like, would you like to come on for a chat? And he was like, yeah, sounds like some crack. Yeah. So I need to reach out to him again to organize a date for that. But for me, I kind of think if it gets to the point where people are ever like, oh my God, another gamer. Oh my God, this, that, and the other, branch out into like the different sort of
Yeah.
areas of content creation, because I could even interview like an online PT.
Hmm.
That's still technically content creation. Do you know,
Yeah.
it's one of those things. There's like an infinite amount of like people who I could interview. It's just a matter of kind of whether the content is right for it.
Hmm.
It just, but it's one of the things. I mean, I've been doing this for 6 months,
Yeah.
and it's still in very, very early stages. You know, this is episode 21.
Mm.
Um, and I feel like there's so much more I could do with it.
Yeah. No, I'm very excited to see what the next year holds for you.
Thank you. Me too.
I'm gonna smash it. So what do you do? Can't speak. What do you like to do outside of streaming and podcasting?
See, the question that I ask everybody.
I purposely threw it out
Oh,
there.
of course. No, and I absolutely love you for that. And it's finally made its way back to me. What do I like to do outside of streaming and podcasting? A lot. So, my hobbies outside of streaming and everything they've varied so much over the years.
Mm.
It's actually kind of crazy. So I will literally take you right back to the very beginning when I was a kid. So when I was a kid, like I was so into playing football.
Yeah.
I always played in goal. I was a goalkeeper, and I was a tiny little fucker when I was a kid. Like I was so small, but I was just good at it. Like I was always out playing football. I was fit as a fiddle, and I got big into athletics as well. And I really, really like kind of sort of excelled in these sorts of things, and I just really, really enjoyed it. Um,
You also, sorry, I just seen Ryan's comment there. You did actually have trials at Liverpool.
I did have a trial at Liverpool when I was 10 years old. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, I had a trial at Liverpool when I was 10 years old to be a goalkeeper for their academy. Didn't work out, obviously, but you know what? 20 years ago, like it was.
Still a hell of achievement.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things. Like, does it really count when it's?
Still, you got a trial.
Yeah.
Like that's massive.
Yeah. No, that's fair. But so, and then whenever I started school, like it just essentially was like a lot of video gaming still, I suppose. But um, when I was 15, I started playing guitar.
Mm.
I started playing guitar at 15, 100% self-taught. I haven't played properly or give it the time it like deserves for like such a long time though. I don't know why. I think it's just one of those things that when like there's not enough time in the day to sort of like dedicate to like doing certain things. Because whenever I was younger, when I was like 15, right up until I was about like 20, that was all I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Like I never put the fucking thing down. Like I was just always playing it, always learning new things. And I did get pretty good.
You
But
are phenomenal.
it never wouldn't go that far now. Like
You're phenomenal.
when I do my music stream, I hopefully will be. I hopefully it'll be okay. Like, but it's one of those things where it's one of those things that I know, right? Supportive wife in that. It's one of those things that you don't ever forget how to play, but it's very hard to relearn. It's sore on the hands. I play guitar. And something that I used to do with playing guitars, I used to write and record my own music. Now, this was just in like the sort of most sort of basic, like in the most like basic way. So like I would have had my guitar and my amp, and I would have plugged it in, played away, but had my like essentially the voice recorder on my laptop, like, and I would have just recorded all these different things, mixed them a little bit. Not that it's one of those things that it will never ever see the light of day again. I still have them somewhere. I'm not telling anybody where. Never see the light of day. Never see the light of day. I do have stuff on SoundCloud.
Yeah.
I do have stuff on SoundCloud. Basically, I made like by 30 odd songs.
They are really good. You showed me a couple when we first started, like,
Oh,
kind
did
of
I?
talking. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, some of it's pretty good. There's like basically using like Apple loops on my MacBook at the time, in GarageBand, and just basically making music using that, and that was always a
Mm,
lot of fun. It's quite like quite cathartic.
yeah.
Um, I got into boxing then when I was 23. Um, which was very sort of kind of just fell into that in its own way. So I was in my job at the time, and I was out of shape. I hadn't exercised in like a long, long time. Like, and I was just like so shit about myself. And then I knew um a friend of mine had done a charity boxing match before, like a
Yeah.
white collar fight. So I looked it up, white collar Northern Ireland, and I found a company that did it,
Hmm.
and there was like an upcoming event in like the July of that year. This was 2017.
Yeah.
So I got into probably the best shape I've ever been in my life. Like
Hmm.
I got down to like 210 pounds, 215 pounds, 197 kilos.
Mm.
I was in fucking great shape. Not sustainable though for like 3 months of training, but yeah. Um, I well, fucking look good. Like, so but then like I sort of, because I was working like 9 to 5 and then I was going to training, like I just went to the gym every day. I just went to the boxing gym every day, and like the guy who was doing the coaching in the event organization, like me and him just became friends as a result. And I signed up for the next show, and then the next one about a year later I did another one.
Mm.
And then he goes to me, he was like, so I'm kind of leaving this company here, and I'm gonna go into semi pro. There's another company that does semi professional events. Do you want in on this? And I was like, I yes, I do. So I started boxing semi professionally, um, under this I don't know what you would call it, like I suppose a promotion.
Yeah.
And I ended up winning the Irish heavyweight title as a result.
It is sick.
I still have the belt because due to COVID, the division that sort of served Ireland and Northern Ireland kind of went defunct. So we just got to keep the belts. Just got to keep the belts at that point. I haven't
Undefeated champ.
undefeated champ is right. Yeah, like 6-0. I haven't fought in like 5 years, unfortunately. But I started training again recently with it, and I want to do that a bit further.
Mm.
But I don't think I'll ever fight again. I want to. Don't think I'll ever fight again because I don't want to actually get my fucking shit kicked in and lose a fight. It's one of those things.
You've never lost a fight.
I look back on it now as like um as an achievement.
Hmm.
It's something that I've like always kind of beat myself up about, is like not I haven't done so much, but like never felt like I've achieved anything out of it. Because I've always like kept myself busy. I've never like not done anything as like a hobby outside of this. Because obviously I started gaming, streaming and stuff, but I've always been doing something else.
Yeah.
I feel like it's not stuff that I openly talk about in like great detail, and I
Mm.
don't know why, because I feel like there are things that I should like be proud of,
Yeah.
because it's like getting into a boxing ring is like something that most people would never fucking dream of doing.
Nope.
I loved it. I loved it. Um, all the bloody noses, black eyes, all that. Just the small price to pay, like that heals, but the feeling of like actually going in doing something, just that adrenaline kind of thing, like this is fucking exhilarating.
Yeah.
You never That never leaves you. The rest of the things do, but that, no, that sticks with you forever. And it's like I love that feeling. And like it's at the time, it was like I kind of felt like I was like I it was an expectation that I probably put on by myself to succeed in these things. So that's why I never really felt that these were like achievements just because it was like kind of, well, if you don't, you're letting down. You're letting yourself down. You're letting your dad down. You're letting your family down. You're letting your friends down. People who've like gone out of their way to come and see you do this. You're
Mm.
letting them down. So like I've always just kind of been like, okay, I always have to be the best, but I have to show that I have put in the best that I can physically do.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's a sort of I think that's kind of like a destructive kind of way to look at things,
Mm.
because then you become like a self-fulfilling prophecy sometimes where you're just kind of like, right, well, things are going to go wrong,
Of course.
so then they naturally do go wrong because you've essentially deemed it that way.
Yeah.
um but I don't know, I think now that I kind of have sort of the life that I have now,
Mm.
I can just look back on these things and be like, you know what, I've done a lot of shit.
Oh,
And
100%.
I was like big into athletics as well. Like when I was a kid, I was big into athletics, and that kind of went into high school as well. It's always just, I wouldn't don't look it now, but I was always like always been physically fit. Just I just like my food as well. I suppose, could you say food is a, no, food's not a hobby.
It absolutely is a
Food
hobby.
is just fucking food and me is just fucking gluttony.
No, it's not. Like, genuinely, I see food in you as a hobby because like you get excited about, like, if you come home and you're like, oh Claire, like, I've seen this recipe or I want to try this.
Huh.
Like, you love that aspect of it. So for me, that's why it is a hobby, is because you
Okay.
get so excited about it. And I love that.
Well,
And I get good food.
I can give like a personal anecdote about, I say my relationship with food, but it's, that kind of makes it sound a bit like eating disordery, but it's not. But I do have it, and this is a very kind of, this is quite a dark story, but I kind of feel like it was one of the more life affirming things for me. And
Mm.
this, anybody who knows me like well enough, more so in real life, will probably hear this and just laugh and be like, that sounds so fucking typical of Andy. So um so about 5 years ago, I was in a very, very dark place in my life. I was, well, I mean, you guys know how that goes, right?
Mm.
I went to the doctor, and I went to go see a mental health professional about options and stuff, whether I was going to counseling or going on medication, stuff like that. So I opted for both. And something that the medical health professional asked me on the first visit I had was, do you feel like life is worth living? And I just broke down at that. I just broke down at that question because no one had ever asked me that. But for me, the answer was a dead set no. It wasn't. And I can happily admit to you right now that it just, confidently admit it wasn't at the time. I I was on my way. I checked out. I was on my way out, and there was a point in time where there might not have been an AndyGames to be here to have this conversation today. And this is where it gets. This is where the story turns on its head. So about a week later, I have another consultation with the mental health professional, and I'd been on medication for about a week now, and this, that, and the other, and like I gotten a lot of fucking baggage out there, a
Mm.
lot of things off my chest. And she goes, I'm going to ask you again, do you feel like life's worth living? And I goes, yeah, I think I do. Because I had something really nice for dinner last night, and I don't think I could ever, I don't think I could never have that again in my life. So I think I'm here to stay, to be honest with you. Just
I love that.
might have just been like KFC or something like that. Might have just had, I don't know,
Still.
KFC, a kebab, something, I don't know. But it was literally just like, yeah. It was just, I don't know, whatever. I don't even remember what it was, but whatever I had for dinner that night before, I was like, yep. This is
No, but I genuinely, I think
this
that's
is it.
so amazing because that's so, something that's like so, people are like, oh, it's just food, but like it's something
Yeah.
that's so important to you, and it's
Oh
something that
yeah.
you couldn't live without. And I think that's amazing
I don't
and should
think.
be celebrated.
Yeah, for real. That's why I love telling people that story, because it's fucking so dumb. The fact that it's just like I could have had a burger and just been like, I don't ever want to not have a burger again in my life, so I'm definitely gonna. Yeah, I can't check out just yet. But there are fucking burgers to be eaten here, like there's kebabs to be eaten, there's fucking Domino's to be eaten, all this, like there. So yeah, my relationship with food, albeit kind of unhealthy at times, it is the reason I am still here today to sort of yeah. So no, that story is like kind of dark, but like it has this just this the most innocent sort of like undertone to it as well, like because for me, like I don't really know how to describe it, but I always I always think I think like a lot in terms of like things that probably don't matter, but I make them matter because
They're important to
that's what
you.
I do. Even if it's not important to me, it's just one of those things. It's
But
like,
it's important at that moment in
yeah,
time when it's in
well,
your head.
maybe, but like the sort of thing where like I will just be kind of have a shit day, but like I will listen to like music or something, which I mean, is another thing. I'm a huge, obviously, it was kind of covered in music. I playing guitar, big fan of music, go to a lot of concerts. Um, I'm having a shit day and listen to a song, and I'm immediately in a good mood. And for
Mm.
me, it's just things like that. Food, it's like kind of there are so many things that give you that massive boost that is not like a temporary thing, because that is always going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
That'll always be the same. So it's it's like your own therapy. um so like I think in that regard, it's like so important to like have things in your life that are important, that you enjoy, that aren't a task, and can always just be there for whenever you absolutely need it, because I can tell you from experience, there are things you least expect um are there at the right moments, and yeah.
So
I mean, I know that kind of was a bit of a tangent, a bit of a segue into
no,
sort of
but I
darker
think it's
places,
important.
but like, yeah, I mean,
It's important for people to hear those stories and to kind of understand that like not everybody's relationship with one certain thing is the same, and everybody's individual relationships are important of what they feel is important, even if it's just in that moment in time where you're like, this is important to me, but
yeah,
2 weeks time it's not. It
yeah, of
doesn't
course,
matter. It
of
made you
course,
feel better.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. It's I think it's good as well to keep your like mind engaged and your mind
Oh,
focused,
absolutely.
um, because for my history, like with like my mental health, have being bored and in your own head, it's
Mm,
too
yes.
it's a cocktail for disaster sometimes. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, so big reason why I've kind of kept up like a lot of hobbies in my time. Like, even though it's like you say, like, you do one thing one day, 2 weeks later, it might not matter to you anymore. And that's like the same with hobbies, where it's like,
It got you through though.
well, that's it. Yeah. And you'll
Yeah.
do things for like a short period of time, but you'll never really forget that the impact that like, that had on you. And like,
Mm-hmm.
even though you don't do it anymore, you're still fine without it, kind of thing. It's, yeah. So I think it's important to like kind of have a lot going on in that regard. So yeah, hopefully that covered that.
Oh, absolutely. So, Andy, or
Yes.
Anda,
And
final question then.
okay.
So, what does 2025 look for AndyGames _94?
Um, there's that's a very good question. Like, I know we covered a lot about what I envisioned for the coming year, but what does it look like? Well, I hope it's positive. I hope I have a year of growth.
Mm-hmm.
I I want to kind of like have this, I want to continue the sort of like good friendships and relationships I have with people that I've met in this space,
Mm-hmm.
because there are so many people who are very, very special to me because of this.
Yeah.
Because this has been such like a massive thing in my life for the last 18 months. It's sort of like I I can't really let go of that. And it's like it's one of those things where when you start out doing this, there's the whole kind of argument about whether relationships are parasocial or whether they're just genuine. You know,
Mm.
parasocial, like for those who don't know, it's like um people on the outside looking in who think they have this like kind of strong bond and relationship with somebody, i.e. a streamer, for example, because they, because they engage them from time to time, kind of thing. They think that they have like that kind of, friendship and relationship more than what it actually is. But and so when I started, I kind of like thought, maybe try and keep, you know, this and my personal life separately. But this has like become my personal life in its own
Mm.
way. And this has become like a very real part of my life. Now, I still struggle with telling people in my normal everyday life that I do this. More people who I know in real life don't know I do this, don't know I've done this for so long, and they don't know how well it's gone in its own way. Um, so yeah, it's like kind of, well, for 2025, I want to do more collabs with people. That's like a massively important thing to me. Obviously, in this sort of space, I do like a weekly collab essentially
Hmm.
with different people, but I want to do more long-winded things with the likes of Luigi Dini, with the likes of Sir T, with the likes of Logan, things like that. People who I share like a lot of common interests in, but in different spaces.
Yeah.
You know, um, there's the people I want to do things with because these are people who have so much going for them,
Hmm.
and are just fucking great guys. Now, interestingly enough, I happen to pick three bald bearded men, so maybe I have a type.
Andy has a type confirmed.
There we go. Yeah, but
And I don't fit any of those types.
totally coincidental. I promise.
It's not.
As soon as I said that, that's when I realized that. As soon as I
Yeah.
said that, that's when I realized. Um,
Now we know what Andy's dreams
but
about at night.
and of course Ryan as well. And Ryan still has
He's still here.
a wee bit, a wee
Yeah.
bit. But like I want to do more collabs. Like haven't played like Phasmophobia with Ryan a lot lately. That has just been fucking incredible. It's been so much fun.
Mm.
And like I've like consciously tried to bring more people to Ryan's, be like, here, Phasmophobia, this is good. Things like that. So I want to do a lot more collabs. I want to grow the podcast. I want to grow my AndyGames channel. Now I did say a few months ago I didn't really care about that, but I want to grow it all. But the thing is, it's like I don't ever expect this to sort of like become a thing where it's ever going to overtake my full-time job.
Yeah.
I don't ever see that happening. But it's something that I've put so much stock into at this point, that I really want it to become. I want it to get bigger. Like I want to do so many different things with it
Hmm.
because I feel like there's potential for it. And that's not to say there's potential in terms of based on what I do. There's potential for anybody to do it. But I kind of feel like because I've had a good year, I want to kind of continue with that and I want to sort of branch out to more people. I want to sort of just meet more people in doing it. Obviously I have like the different lists of games that I'm going to be doing, which can be like a bit of an opening for that as well.
Hmm.
But I think as well, I kind of I feel like I owe so much to a lot of the people who kind of do help me continue this, and that is like the other streamers as well, because it's the great bunch. It's the great bunch, you
Yeah.
know. So I mean, I know that's kind of a bit of a wishy washy answer, but
No,
like
not at
it's
all.
that is sort of pretty much what I want to happen in 2025, and like there's wanting things to happen, and then there's actively making things happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that's the general idea anyway, is to do more with other people.
Love
You
it.
know?
Love it. So, Andy, we still have some questions from your lovely viewers.
Yes. Yes. So a while ago, I put into Discord,
Yeah.
um,
Thanks.
asking people if they had any questions for this particular episode, to fire them in, and we did get a decent amount. So I go, there you go, Claire. This is all on you too. You've done so well with reading the questions out, which, by the way, might sound condescending.
I am dyslexic as shit. So I am.
So she says.
No, I am.
But yeah,
Yeah,
so
very, very dyslexic. So we haven't cocked up yet, but we will.
no, you've done brilliant.
Thank you.
No, but now it's been acknowledged. It's kind of like,
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming. So our Chloe asked if you could have absolutely anyone on the pod, who would it be?
The lead singer of Trivium,
Yes,
Matt Hafey.
amazing.
So he is obviously a musician, lead singer, guitarist of heavy metal band Trivium, but also is quite famously a massive, massive gamer as well.
Mm.
They're Trivium are one of my favorite bands. Seen them 6 times live. I would love to. I'd love to interview him, just solely because there's that just shared interest, and it's like, gamer. Like, he put up actually a post like on Facebook and Instagram recently, saying about like how when he was a kid, like one of the first games he ever played was like Super Mario Brothers 3,
Oh,
and
wow.
he used to get his mom to like videotape him and take photos of
Oh,
him
no way.
like playing the game.
That's class.
And yeah, like I would absolutely love to have him have him on the podcast and interview him. That would be an absolute dream come true.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's I've had a long think about that one, and it just
Love it. The man, the myth, the legend himself, Luigi Dini. Had to give you a sick intro there.
Of course.
What would you like to see behind the camera evolve into as a show?
So I would love to be able to do this in person with people in the future. I would love to have like a proper sit down interview in a studio with people and actually do this. The problem is, it's like I don't know what like a sort of more mainstream podcast kind of consists of. I could sit and do this for years and hit the same numbers that I do on a monthly basis, and that'd be fine because it's a hobby. But I definitely feel like because there's like infinite scope for it, there's like infinite people I could actually interview for this.
Yeah.
It's like it's a hard one to answer, but I know one thing I would love to do is like an actual in-person one. But yeah, I wanna interview more like entities as well. So like when I to touch back on when I interviewed the charity campaign against living miserably, like I thought that was like I thought it was a great one. It was only a 25-minute interview, but more things like that, more entities as well as people. Maybe like interview like, indie dev companies and stuff like that. And I think there's so much like potential for it, and it's just a matter of kind of finding, that sort of like little space and sort of being able to like turn it, into something not more consistent, but like more of. I want to do more special edition midweek episodes, like just shorter ones. I think like ultimately, I feel like I'd like to monetize it, not at the expense of anybody, but I feel like I'd like to monetize it on like Spotify or something. I just want to grow it, but I can say I'm still in my early days with it. I'm happy just kind of going with it, getting some amazing people on, getting to know some incredible people, which I have been doing for the last 6 months. Yeah, like that. I think that's pretty much it. I want to kind of still stay like I want to like stay without my head in the clouds about it at the moment. Um, even though it's good to sort of aim big, but you know, at the moment, just taking things as it comes.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, the Mighty Ryan. Don't know who that is. Not necessarily talking about personal achievement regarding the channel, but what's your favorite stream moment of 2024, if you can recall, of course.
Ah, my favorite stream moment of 2024. It's I don't know if I can really say, if I'm honest with you. Is it bad if I say this? No, fuck it, I'll say it. Actually didn't happen on on Twitch or TikTok. My favorite stream moment of the year happened on Discord. Now, certain people watching this or listening to this will know exactly what I'm talking about.
Ryan.
So, the odd time I will do like Discord only sort of things, and I will stream like some kind of simulator game into it. Very rarely I do this, but when I do, it's a lot of fun. You know, because it's different. It's different like to streaming normally because people can like have their cameras on, they can chat away, and I'll just be playing the game, right? And then you get like a lot more people who come in who might not necessarily join your actual streams. And there is this young lad in my Discord, um, who who he introduced himself to me as cool gamer underscore PT. And what a guy. What a fucking guy. He
Absolute
is
legend.
so funny. So funny. And I was like playing Supermarket Simulator, and he comes in and he's just, he's just absolutely causing havoc in this chat. It's just, but it's like endearing, he's, he means well and
He's
all.
brilliant.
And, he came off with like few crackers, like a few absolute bangers. But I was signing off the stream, as it were. And I was like, right, I'm going to end this here, end this call, yada, yada, yada. And all of a sudden, he just goes, bye, princess. Just absolutely.
That's so
It
wholesome.
was like, it turned into like one of the most sort of iconic lines that I've heard. For this year. It was just the most. And like he started becoming a bit more active in Discord lately as well. And but he's that boy internets very well. I can say that much. Some of the responses he comes off with, they're like fucking brilliant. Like,
Phenomenal.
there's a slight language barrier because he's Portuguese, but he's fucking hilarious, man. He's so funny. Now, had you asked me about 2023, it was definitely the 36 copies of Duder's My Car. That was definitely the most iconic thing about that. But yeah, that I think takes the stream moment of the year, 2024.
Yeah.
Definitely. Like, there's been so many decent moments as well. Um, like Dini's DKR tournament. Like, I absolutely love that. Hosting Star Grab of the year, I enjoyed that. But no, the Bye Princess was that was definitely, I think, up there as number one.
Love it. Okay, so Sir T is hitting with us with a real absolute feel of a question.
Yep.
So, Andy, are you happy, and not in a surface level kind of aspect, with the things you've achieved in the community and channel you have built from the ground up? Are you happy?
That is a loaded question.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Short answer, yes. Because I was thinking about this and like sort of there's a big difference between being content and being happy. So when you're content, you're fine with how the way things are. But then if things are shit, you're just fine with that and you've accepted it, which is not definitely not like the best way to be, I don't think. But yeah, like I mean, so in terms of streaming and on a personal level, I've definitely had my share of adverse moments. More so in my personal life than streaming, to be honest with you. Um but I know in terms of both, there is a lot I've achieved. You know, like starting streaming, starting the podcast has like absolutely elevated my personal confidence to a level which I didn't think was possible, to the sort of level of confidence I had when I was a young kid. That's the sort of level of confidence that in myself that we're talking. Now it's still not fantastic, but it's in comparison, it's nearly the best it's ever been, which does say a lot. But um, so it's like there's that. Um, and in terms of the community and the channel, like there are people here who essentially are friends for life
Yeah.
as a result. And I'm not saying, I'm not taking credit for that for sure, but, because it's a lot of it's just people being in one place at a certain time, you know. So I'm not taking credit for that at all. But like the fact that as a result that there are, people people who I definitely got strong friendships with, and even people within the community who have strong friendships with each other, like, it's one of those things where I can look at it in so many different ways. I could look at it in ways that I want to improve it. I could look at it in ways where this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, if I have a bad day, I can either switch off from it or I can turn to it. It's always there. And, in sort of like, in a lot of aspects, like, what I do is something that I have created. Now, albeit there's a lot of mutual kind of people who, we watch, but it's all different because at the end of the day, people wouldn't tune in if they weren't interested in me or what I did.
Yeah.
That's just the facts. Um, so yeah, I definitely think I can say I am happy, especially with all this, regardless of any improvements, any tweaks, even through the bad days. Yeah, because it's something that, even like when the whole streaming side is long gone, I'll still be able to look back on it and be like, yeah, I did this for X number of times and it was one of the best things I ever did, one of the best decisions I ever made. Like I can safely say that right now, that's, one of the, yeah. So yeah, to answer your question, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So Bennett has asked, looking back, would your 18-year-old self be shocked at where you thought you would be?
Oh, absolutely. Like I mentioned this before, like I was always that type of person who was like, why would you just not play a video game yourself? Why would you watch somebody else play a video game?
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I never thought I would be in my 30s with a Twitch channel streaming to people across the world, um, with a podcast. So then in terms of like, in terms of that side of things, yeah. Um, you're 18 to yourself shocked with where you thought you would be. So I didn't also like, I don't think I ever really looked towards being 30 when I was 18. Because at that time of my life, I was just trying to fucking get through the day. Never mind look to like
Mm.
12 years on. So I don't know. Um there's a lot I would change. But the end result, no, it all worked out. Like, I mean, I am sitting next to my wife right now. So I definitely think that, we have a roof over our heads and everything is good. Um, but no, in terms of the streaming side, I think my 18-year-old self would be shocked. Everything else, probably, well, probably everything
Happy.
would as expected, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good question. Freeman asked, where do you see your live streams going in the next 5 years? What's your main focus and what are your goals with streaming? What's your main focus with health and fitness at the moment?
hmm So this is an incredibly tough one to answer, and I think it's a lot of it's because of my age and where I'm at in life. In terms of streaming in the next 5 years, I mean, I could be streaming the next 5 years. I might not be streaming the next 5 years. I don't know. I could never even tell you what's going to come up tomorrow. My main focus is behind the camera.
Mhm.
I feel like there's more longevity in the podcast than there is in the streaming itself. Not to say that I'm ever going to prioritize any of them, and I know I said that a while ago, but I don't know. The podcast I feel has more longevity. I love streaming. I love playing games. I love entertaining people. I will do that for as long as I can. But I kind of think at this moment in time, it's incredibly hard to say because I'm 30. I'm recently married, and obviously with that there comes certain conversations about moving on to the next steps, as some might describe it, starting
Mhm.
a family, things like that. Like there, my personal priorities are always going to take precedent over, um, like my streaming and stuff. So like, if me and Claire start a family in the next few years, then streaming is literally going to be sort of on the back burner for however long that might be, and it may be a case of maybe it might be minimal, maybe it might be altogether, who knows. So it's incredibly hard to say what my goals are because life has to come first. Life has to come first. Um, and in terms of the health and fitness, my health and fitness goals are always ever, ever changing. So I am notorious for going up and down in weight like it's nobody's business. In the matter of months, I can go from fucking 260 pounds, 200 or 280 pounds to like 250. I just so in the new year, I'm gonna get back into boxing, like for a couple days a week, maybe 2 or 3 days a week, and then one of the other days I'm gonna get back into weight training. Yeah, I enjoy it. Makes you feel good, and it's just a healthy thing to do. It's just a healthy thing to do, and it's something that I'm like no stranger to. It's something I've been doing for years, like with weightlifting and boxing, all sorts of stuff. Um, at the moment, to really sort of sum it up, it's just to get back on track. That is just to get back on track, to drop some weight, and yeah, man, that's pretty much the long and short of that, I have to say.
Nice one. So what would Ash do? Has actually asked me a question,
Yeah.
which
Would you like me to read this one out?
go for it.
A question for Mrs. Games. What has it been like watching Andy grow with his streaming? What has been the most significant change that you've noticed?
So Ash, it's been amazing. Honestly, seeing you've kind of touched on it before, but like seeing your confidence grow, more so your confidence in yourself, not just like confident as a person projecting that, but like seeing you actually see the end results of what you're achieving has been amazing. Um, but
Oh,
like I really do like Andy will probably tell you is I am the first person that comes home and is like, so are you streaming tonight? And you're like, do you want me to stream?
yeah.
And I'm like, yes, please. Of
Yeah,
course I
that's
do.
it. Like the amount of times I am ready to just not stream because I want to spend the night with Claire. She's like, no,
Stream.
play randomizer. Play TCG card shop sim.
Please play TCG card shop. But no,
One day.
for me, what it is, I get like a real joy out of it because like it's seeing you happy and seeing that we like I've talked about it like before in this, like the light in your eyes. See, watching you do something that you enjoy is just the most wholesome thing for me. And that's why I always love of like why I ask you like, are you streaming at night and stuff? So for me, like Andy has a very like soothing voice and very relaxing voice as well. And I'm a notoriously really bad sleeper.
Yeah, it's
So
very rough. Like
it's
not for me, for her. Like no.
yeah. So when I'm watching Andy stream, it's always why I check out about 10:30 because Andy's voice just kind of like soothes me that much. So like it's constantly hearing Andy talk. Whereas don't get me wrong, if it's just me and you chatting,
Yeah.
we're still talking and things, but it's like I have to like respond
Yeah,
so
of
that I
course.
can't go to
Where
sleep.
you can just listen
Yeah,
and
and it's
you can just
so
be quiet, listen to it.
it's
Yeah,
so soothing.
yeah.
So
Oh,
I love that there. I love getting to see your development and the changes. Just kind of seeing like, especially this year. seeing how you kind of met challenges and like adapted it to what feels right for you has been great. So, you know, you've took it all in your stride. You haven't like kind of like a lot of people like me personally, if it was me, like I'd have keeled over and be like, no, can't do it. Whereas you've kind of been like, right, I need to take a wee step back,
Yeah.
reevaluate it, change it up, and do what suits me. And I think again, as I've said, like, you know, everybody's noticed that. You can see just how happy you are, you know, like you literally played base game the other day. I did not think you'd be doing that anytime soon.
No,
But
this
it was
says
amazing.
a lot, doesn't
It
it?
does.
When I
It
play
just
Mario
shows.
64 normal, you know that I'm in a fucking good mood.
So yeah, Ash, it's been amazing.
Thank
Excuse
you.
me. I
That
really
is
love it.
incredibly sweet. It's nice like hearing that.
Mm,
Because I don't know, like it's just sort of
I'll always be.
obviously, you know, being my wife, it's like obviously your support is like the what matters the most to me. And obviously like have your backing like that. No, it means a lot. Thank
No,
you.
I'll always support you. I'll always be your number one supporter. I will be fighting in your corner to the end.
Thank you.
Not to be soppy, but
No, but you
it's
know,
what it
it's,
is.
yeah. I appreciate that.
Okay, so Andy, to round it off
Yeah.
with Logan has hit you with a question.
Okay.
So, what's been your least and then most favorite or memorable moments from your journey so far?
Um. Okay. Um. Least favorite slash memorable moment. It's a tough one. Um. But I want to say the kind of like low point that I hit in around May time. So what had happened was I so I took on like a new project in work, and that was full time. So I couldn't stream through the week anymore for about 2.5 months, just on weekends. But the weekends, just like the numbers were down, it just was rushed and it was so bad. And I just kind of was like, I'm burning the candle at both ends here. You know, I'm coming home
Mm.
to do this thing I enjoy, but I'm not getting a chance to enjoy it. So it kind of just that, you know, I kind of just had to sort of go on like a long sort of break from it. Like I can't remember how long it was. It might have been about a month or 5 weeks or something
Yeah.
that I didn't stream for. And so like that just, you know, and albeit I was distracted by work and stuff and you know things in my life were fine at the time, like it just I just couldn't maintain both things. But that sort of feeling I was getting when I was streaming, because it just you know, I kind of got so much in my head like, okay, people are just done because I haven't been around for a while, people are just done. It's not necessarily the case, you know, it's not necessarily, but yeah, like um that's definitely sort of, but in a sense to turn that into a positive, it's sort of look where things are now. Like it's kind of just sort of they've turned around, they're like a lot better now than what they were, so that's definitely a positive. um my most memorable slash favorite moment from my journey so far, um see,
Bye, princess.
I print, no, that's just of this year. That's a tough one because like I'm like so grateful for this like every day. And if I was just, you know, your run of the mill TikTok streamer, I could say, oh, that day I got a universe, that day I got gifted 10 galaxies. You know, like people put fucking videos of that up. And I know the one time if you get like it, fine. But I don't know. Like the most favorite moment, I'm grateful for this like every single day.
Mm.
I've had so many laughs. I've met so many amazing people. And like, I don't, possibly New Year's last year. I think I'll always remember this stream. Um, so it was like the last stream I did of 2023, and it was like I was playing a Mario ROM hack, Peach's Fury, and it was there was something about I got like a massive raid in from Lava Neck that day, and I think I had about 35 people in the stream, and this was like the end of my first 6 months of streaming, if even. And there was something about it that it was just like I was able to really kind of get out how I felt and how like that 6 months had been for me. So at that point, it was probably more life changing at that point in
Mm.
terms of streaming because it was something that's so incredibly new to me. That I was able to just be like, you know what? Thank you guys for all this, for making this happen, for allowing this to continue. Um, just because without the people who I'd met and people who were there right from the very beginning, I wouldn't have been able to. So I think at that moment, being able to like acknowledge that to everybody was like a massive, massive thing for me. And like that sort of like support and everything's only really continued on over the next 12 months. So I think that's probably one of my most memorable moments. And then of course, it was that same stream that a lot of people who listen to this will know of a viewer in multiple channels called Ruth, or Ruthless as her handle is. For the longest time did nothing but lurk in every single person's channel she just watched. She only maybe said hi every so often, that was it. But you knew she was there, but she never talked. She was on the piss that day. And she comes out and she was like, "Oh my, I just want to tell you guys are so awesome. This is an amazing community, this, that, and the other."
Love her.
And now very active.
Yeah.
And you know what? I love that. And I think that particularly is kind of like nice for me, having that haven't been in my stream. That like is something incredible for me because it's like, there is this space here. Somebody feels comfortable enough to open up and say, "Look, I don't really talk, but you guys are amazing. This community is amazing. This, that, and the other." And then to become like an absolute integral part of things. Like I think that's like such an amazing thing. Like I'll never forget that. And then of course, like, there is making the friends that I have to the point where we've gone and met them. Like, we went over to Liverpool the start of this year to go and meet like people who we became friends with. So like Chelsea, Sky,
Chloe.
Dan, Chloe. Like
can't forget our Chloe.
I know. It's so like it's there's so many memorable moments, but the moments that I really kind of, I don't know. Yeah, I just where I can show my like sort of how grateful I am to you guys for making this be able to happen, kind of thing.
Mm.
Yeah, that's probably covers that. And that's the last question.
Yep.
Yeah. So, the nerves were certainly there for the duration of this, but we got through it. But yes, thank you, Mrs. Games, for for doing this interview, for agreeing to do this interview, and for absolutely smashing it out of the park as well. Like, for your first ever podcast, I think you've done an incredible job.
Thank you very much.
Like you've taken on my job for the week, and I've taken the backseat as the interviewee, which I would say is fucking harder work. I know how easy I have it being an interviewer, but holy shit.
Yeah, like this is definitely the easy side of it.
You did absolutely brilliant as well. Yeah, so this has been the 2024 year-end episode of Behind the Camera with AndyGames. I can't even plug my guest because my guest is my wife. My guest is my wife, but she interviewed me, so it's like
I'll plug Andy.
Behind the Camera will be back. We haven't done an episode in a number of weeks, but we will be back next week for the new year. New year, new beginning. I'm very excited for the next episode of Behind the Camera. This has been wonderful. Thank you again for interviewing me.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course, always. Thank you for everybody who has tuned in. We record this live on Twitch and it is subsequently uploaded to Spotify, Amazon, Apple Music, and YouTube. Yeah, we're on YouTube now. I probably should have Yeah, probably shouldn't have forgotten about that. But everybody who's tuned in, live and offline, thank you so much. Without your support, this would not be what it is. So that is very much appreciated. Um, we will be back again with another installment soon, as mentioned. But until then, take care, keep being you, and peace.